Zounds, dark realmers, there is something rotten and evil afoot in the land of Hollywood, and so we must tally forth and save the Indies. G'day Dark Realmers, it's horror author and illustrator Michael J. Elliott here with you again today. And today I've got something different, something a little bit disturbing. Well, I found it disturbing, and as a moviegoer you might find it a little bit frightening too. And I'm talking about free speech and Hollywood. Okay, now Hollywood, whether we like to think them as our friends and the people who give us all those wonderful movies, they're a business. They're an entertainment business. That's a given, okay? Now, Hollywood's always done its best to protect its own properties, its own stars. And during the golden era of Hollywood, when stars were actually contracted to studios, they put a lot of effort into protecting their stars' reputation, their stars' persona, how they were projected onto the public, and of course their movies. Now, there were some scandals with this too. In the silent movie era, a very famous comedian called Fatty Arbuckle was charged with rape of a woman at a Hollywood party, and he was at that time one of the most loved and highly paid actors in Hollywood, and the studio tried to cover it up. They tried to pay off witnesses and so forth. It didn't work, and his career was over. Now we fast forward to 2019, and there's something frightening happening with Hollywood and your right of free speech. Now, I'm not going to get into political agendas here, Dark Realmers. I'm not going to talk about feminism or the new feminism, social justice warriors, anything like that. But the current controversy involves Disney. Now, Disney is a huge, huge company. It now owns Marvel Comics and movies. It owns the Lucasfilm franchise, which is in charge of all the Star Wars, and a host of other things. But the biggest controversy has come with the release of its movie Captain Marvel. Now, I'm not going to get into what the lead actress Brie Larson said, and I'm not going to get into the politics of the movie, but something that did frighten me, Dark Realmers, and I think it should concern you too, is how to protect a movie at all costs, your free speech is being manipulated and almost Big Brotherish control. Now, you may have heard of a site called Rotten Tomatoes, okay? You say tomatoes, I say tomatoes, whatever. And that's been a very popular website for moviegoers and cinephiles to talk about movies and give their opinions of films and so forth like that. Well, they used to have a feature on their site called, Want to See, and that indicated the number of people or the percentage of people that wanted to go see an upcoming movie. Now, with the release of Captain Marvel, that rating dropped down to 27%, which is really, really low for a blockbuster movie, and especially something from the MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe. And Rotten Tomatoes got rid of that, and they cited reasoning that they were making changes to the site, and this was part of an ongoing process and so forth. And people got up in arms about that. It's like, well, why now? Why have you done this now? And of course, They denied it had anything to do with this movie. They denied that completely until recently when they said, well, we were planning on doing this, it's just that Captain Marvel brought it forward a bit. That is really frightening that they would do that for this movie. Now, why didn't they do it for other movies that didn't seem to have these sort of wanting people to see these, such as, you know, the 2016 Ghostbusters? Also, another thing that was even worse was that 54,000 comments were deleted from Rotten Tomatoes. Now, what happened with that? The comments that got deleted meant that the movie's rating or popularity rating by people increased, because Rotten Tomatoes would not allow you to put on a rating that's anything less than 3 stars. Now, that is manipulation of the worst kind, Dark Realmers. That's virtually saying to you, the moviegoer, you can have an opinion, but it's got to be what we want. Now, Rotten Tomatoes have said, look, don't, you know, we're stopping trolls. We're stopping trolls. And that's a very, you know, it's almost using a hammer to crack a walnut. Because, yes, there are trolls. We all know there are trolls on the internet. It's just part and parcel of our modern life. But not 54,000 trolls is a bit hard to believe. Now, Rotten Tomatoes is owned by a company called Fandango. Now, their solution to this problem is that you can still post a review, but you have to buy a movie ticket from Fandango. Okay, so that's a little bit like Amazon when they changed book reviews and so forth. You must spend a minimum of $50 with Amazon to, you know, leave a review. And it's a very broad stroke that's basically tarring everyone with the same brush. And not only that, but because of the controversy over this movie, Dark Realmers, YouTube also tweaked its algorithm so that Brie Larson, the topic was a little bit different. And that's frightening. That is really frightening, Dark Realmers, because basically people who have had an opinion of this movie, now not getting into politics, but anyone who doesn't like this movie because they just find it uninteresting or boring or whatever, are being told that they just don't like women or they just don't like strong female leads. Now, I don't have a problem with strong female leads. Oh, great, fantastic. And we have had strong female leads. This movie is being promoted as the first breakout movie for women. Sorry, Wonder Woman never had this controversy, was a huge success. Ripley, the heroine from Aliens, one of the most badass, to use Americanisms, females we've ever had. Sarah Connor, okay, very capable, a very powerful, dynamic character. So to have you be told that you're, you know, anti-feminist, you're anti-woman, you hate women, because you don't like a movie is frightening. And to have Hollywood manipulate the opinion of a movie just to boost the bottom line of their takings is another reason we should be frightened, Dark Realmers. Now, as I said, I'm not getting into politics and so forth, but it's a worrying trend that we should all be worried about, because we are moviegoers. We love our movies. We just want to be entertained, okay? We want to tell other moviegoers, hey, this was fantastic. Or we want to say, look, it was not so good. Perhaps the direction could have been better, the writing could have been better, or whatever. But now Hollywood is deciding which one of you out there is more worthy to have a comment up, okay? That's not good. That's not good for anyone. And Hollywood should realise that it's facing stiff competition, okay? The whole dynamics of entertainment has changed, Dark Realmers. Just as books made way for cinema and cinema made way for television, now We have streaming services, Netflix and the like. Netflix, probably the biggest producer of original content in the world, and people are lapping that up, okay? They are lapping that up because Hollywood tends to have this mentality at the moment that, okay, we'll give you reboots and we'll give you, sequels and prequels and a whole range of things related to one product, okay, because they make money. That's fine, but it's stifling creativity, okay? Now, I've seen reports and stories on YouTube where, people have shown figures for movies takings that have been creative, no sequels, and they're not as good. Now, does that mean we don't want to see creative original content? No, of course not. It just means if you are stuck with two choices of movies, it's the best of a bad situation. If you had a plate of sardines and a plate of tuna and you hate fish, but you're going to have to eat one, you're going to choose the best of a bad bunch, okay? And that's what's happening. We've been given so many sequels, prequels, reboots, remastered, whatever, that it's basically, making us choose from less than a stellar bunch of productions, okay? Now, how does indie filmmaking fit into this? Well, as I said, at one stage the consumer was always right, but Hollywood doesn't believe that anymore, Dark Realmers. It's basically saying, this is what we're going to give you and you're going to like it, and if you don't, well, we'll just make sure that the movie seems to be doing okay. This is where you can help, Dark Realmers. Indie filmmakers, indie musicians, indie authors, the whole range. There is a wonderful, wonderful, world of source material for movies and so forth from indie authors, songwriters, lyrics from songs can be turned into movies, believe it or not. And so I'm encouraging you, as we always do here on GoIndieNow, to support indie filmmakers. Now, how can you do this? Okay, I'm not telling you to boycott Hollywood by any means, but we need to empower our indie creative people. And you can do this. Find a local film festival. Now, here in Frankston, the city I live, here in Victoria, Australia, we actually have one. And one of the biggest film festivals here in Australia is Tropfest, which has become international, with writers, directors, movie makers submitting their short movies to try and win the award. What can you do? Well, support these by visiting or buying tickets to go see short film festivals. Whenever you get the chance to see an indie film at maybe a small independent theatre, go see it. Okay, now, it may not be your type of movie, and I can understand, but there's other things you can do too. Do you know indie filmmakers work on such a massively minute budget that they're always looking for ways to cut the budget, or stretch the budget, I should say. So what can you do? Find out if there's some indie films being made in your local area and offer your services. But Michael, I don't know anything about filming. I don't know nothing about birthing no babies. No, you don't need to. Offer to help them with transport, making the coffee, photocopying scripts or production schedules. Anything you can do will be so appreciated. And who knows, you may get your name on the credits too. That's another thing you can do. Find out who are your local filmmakers. Find out, are there any filmmakers in your area? Also do some research and find out, is there any indie movies being produced around your local area? Perhaps someone's thinking of planning a movie, looking for locations. You could suggest locations around you that are based on what the movie is. For example, if you live in, I don't know America that well, guys, but say Arizona, that looks perfect for a sort of hostile earth apocalyptic desert type situation. Do that sort of thing. What I'm basically saying to you, Dark Realmers, is that we need to give indies a stronger voice, because Hollywood is stifling our own, and it's not good in an age where, you know, everyone has an opinion and can instantly talk about it on the internet, but we're having it stifled just for the sake of a movie and its perception and how the studios want it to look successful at all costs. That's not good. Remember what George Orwell showed us in 1984, Dark Realmers, okay? So that's it. That's my little rant for this month, but I hope it's been positive too, okay? I'm not trying to bag Hollywood. I'm just trying to show you some of the worrying trends that we're going ahead with here. Well, when I say we, Hollywood, okay? And this is why it's so important that we support our indie filmmakers. Hey, like I said, whatever you can do will be appreciated. Indie filmmakers always love publicity. If you run a blog, a website, a newsletter, anything like that, talk about movies, get people interested in the indie filmmaking industry and supporting the indie filmmakers, because they're our best hope of getting originality and also keeping our free speech alive. So until Uncle Joe lets me out of the cellar next month, this is Michael J. Elliott saying bye-bye.
Yes, it is I, Joe Compton. Thank you so much for joining us here on Time to Go Indie Now. Yes, our flagship show. And yes, I am here. You probably were thinking, where's Joe? This is a weird way to start our show. But, you know, from time to time I like to throw a curveball in there and do something a little different. And I thought that Michael's segment had the perfect way to get into this episode. And so I wanted to have him lead the show. And he did so brilliantly. Thank you to Michael Elliott. Thank you to all our contributors who you're about to see. Their segments are off the hook this episode, and we've got a lot of great things coming up, including some world premiere stuff. So I'm real excited about that. We have our friends Turbo Widget, an indie rock band who they've been doing this thing every month for the 2019 year, where they're debuting a new song and video that accompany that song every month. So we have the exclusive here for you for April, and we're real excited to share that with you. We'll be sharing each month as the year goes by here, and every episode that we have, you'll get a new video to absorb from Turbo Widget. So we're real excited about that, including some special features and some things that we're working on with them, and they're going to be a big part of some other shows and things that we're doing as well. So I'm real excited to have Ben and Kim give us this opportunity to showcase them. Really excited to show you what they've got going on. I hope you enjoy that. We have our featured filmmaker, a familiar face, in Todd Braley, who just put out a little bit of a different film for Todd, really, called Silence. It's one he's been working on for a very long time, that he finally got it all to come together, and so we're going to show you an exclusive clip and some behind-the-scenes stuff from that as our featured filmmaker segment goes, and then go and see the movie. We've got a lot of great segments, as we always do here, and some great new releases, including a new music video that has an important message. We have a couple great readings, even a book trailer for you in this episode, and a couple other great things going on in the new releases segment. And with that, let's get on with the show, shall we? I'll be back at the end. All right, everybody, enjoy episode 37 of Time to Go Indie Now.
Hey everybody, it's JB coming at you with Mad Machines. It's a game that is similar to Rocket League, if you've ever played that, except it takes cars and it replaces it with robot. You can play hockey, lacrosse, tennis, I think baseball as well. I didn't play every sport, obviously. But it takes the fun of Rocket League and it adds robots and it adds an element of combat. And it's a fun, interesting idea. Not unique, but fun and interesting. The controls are a bit hard to get a hang of, especially if you aren't like, moi, used to playing on a computer, that kind of game. But once you get the hang of it, it's a quality way to play spend an hour. The combat is interesting. It's not. It could use a little bit of patchwork, a little bit of touch ups. But I mean, I think it's the guy's first game, so and these usually have bug fixes as the days and weeks and months go on. So look for it to get a lot better. And I think it's still in its early release play stage, so it'll definitely get better. But it's a solid way to spend half hour to an hour playing, especially once you get the hang of the controls. It's a lot of fun, especially when you finally manage to score. That's just like with Rocket League. It's kind of hard to score, but once you do, you go bananas. It's a really good time. So yeah, Mad Machines, check it out. Go! Jump! 10-point bonus. Look out! Power up!
Hello, this is Julia here today with this month's review. So this month I reviewed Given to Fly by J.D. Estrada. It's a middle grade fantasy, and a short blurb is, a boy who dreams about flying finds out there's no magic in his new home because it lives next door. So this has a feel of a middle grade fantasy, but I think it still appeals to older readers. It reminded me a lot of reading the series of Unfortunate Events books, and how the story is directed at the reader in a way that seems to break the fourth wall a bit. But the lessons embedded in the story are perfect for readers of any age. It was filled with great insights and fancies. The story is about John, who moves to a new home. His biggest dream is to fly, and he has recently lost his grandfather, who helped to inspire that dream in him. He discovers a house that defies gravity and everything else, and its inhabitants are even stranger than the Sideways house. They all embark on a journey to teach John how to fly. Being a middle grade book, it is written a little simply, but after the chaos of this last month for me, I found that to be a great relief, honestly. I could still stretch my imagination and reflect on the life lessons in this book without feeling I was overburdening myself or using too much brain power. The characters in this book are all unique and distinctive, and they teach you not to assume things based off of either appearance or expectations. Each character is wonderful to discover and get to know, though they have only short appearances in the book as they work to help John learn a way he can fly. They try through knowledge, then wisdom, then cyclones, and on, Each time he visits Odd Manor is an adventure, and John is constantly surprised, but learning and inquisitive all the time, which are great traits to have. Everything about the manor is odd but fascinating and full of insights. All in all, I enjoyed this book, and I would recommend it if you're looking for an easy read that takes you back to when dreams like flying seemed attainable, because maybe they still are. Thanks so much for joining me, and have a wonderful month.
Hey guys, C.L. Cannon here from Fiction Atlas Press, bringing you another marketing tip. This month I want to talk to you briefly about universal links, specifically the books to read link that you can get through Draft to Digital. Now, I have known about this link system for a while now. It's been around for a few years, but I was always under the impression, which I think a lot of people are, that you have to publish your books through Draft to Digital to use a books to read link. And I was recently told that was not true, and I have actually made my own links through there. And I think it is a great platform that everybody should be using. But I think a lot of people, just like me, were confused and thought, hey, if I'm not publishing through Draft to Digital, then I can't use a books to read link. Now, what is a books to read link for those who don't know what it is? A books to read link is like a universal link. You sign up on Draft to Digital site on bookstoread.com, and you will sign up and make an account. It takes 2 seconds to make an account. And then you will take one link from your book on whichever platform that you want to use. You can do this on Wide, you can do this on Amazon only. But you put your link in there, making sure that it's a clean link, not a dirty link without any tracking information on it. I've already talked to you guys about that. So if you need to know the difference between a clean and a dirty link, you might want to go back and watch that video. But basically, you want to make sure you don't have any tracking information in your link and stick it in there, and it will actually populate all of the places that your book is online. So say if you put in your Amazon link, it would also populate your book on Apple, on Nook and Kobo. So if you've got it on different platforms, if you're Wide, it will actually automatically detect those other platforms. And what it does is when you can customize the end of it, like it'll give you one with some random numbers at the end when you first make it, but you can actually customize it to say whatever. Like one of my books is called Bloodlines. I can make mine say bookstoread.com/bloodlines. So you can customize it to make it easy to remember. But basically, when you share this link, people will click on it and they will be taken to a sort of landing page, and it has the link to every single one of the platforms that you're on. It'll have like a little icon for Kindle. It'll have a little icon for iBooks and for Nook and Kobo. So you only have to share that one link instead of making like 4 or 5 links and trying to share them all around and making sure that you're getting some exposure for all of your wide platforms. You can just make a books to read link and it'll go everywhere with that one link that you're sharing. So people can choose, what their preferred platform is and be taken to your book directly on that platform. So it's a great tool. I really wish that I would have known that you didn't have to be exclusive to Draft to Digital to do that, because I do upload all of my Wide titles directly to the retailer. So I was under the impression, that, if I don't use Draft to Digital to list those books on Wide platforms, then I can't use it, but you really can. And I really want to thank Maren Hogan for telling me that you can do this, even if you are not using Draft to Digital. So that's my marketing tip this month. I hope it helps you. I hope it makes some of you aware about this really great asset that's out there for authors.
And now enjoy the exclusive premiere of Turbo Widget's My Sunlight, video and song debuting right here on Go Indie Now.
When I see your face, it makes me feel with love too. I'm completely consumed. When I'm in your space, the air around you fills the room with the smell of sweet perfume. In my life, nothing but the bluest skies, and you make me so want to rise. You're my sunlight. Beauty, poise, and grace. Your eyes, they glow within like a flower beginning to bloom. And in your warm embrace, you melt away the cares of me, and you chase away these blues. In my life, nothing but the bluest skies, and you make me so want to rise. You're my sunlight. When I'm with you, something else our two hearts beat a single song. In my life, nothing but the bluest skies, and you make me so want to rise. You're my sunlight. You're my sunlight. My plate almost grown up man. On my own, I can't wait for it.
There's something beautiful to be enjoyed about the exploration of one instrument. And that is why I'm reviewing Fabrizio Paterlini from Italy. You're gonna see some instrumentation of different things, but the lead here is always gonna be the piano. I I've reviewed Zoe Keating with her work on the cello. I've reviewed Lowercase Noises, where Andy Offling often experiments with electric guitars and loops. I reviewed Super Guitar Brothers with their acoustic guitars. So, piano, to offer something different. This independent Italian composer creates beautiful, lush, atmospheric music. I think it's great to write to, and it's been a while since I reviewed something instrumental, so sure, I can enjoy virtuosity and innovation and dominating an instrument, but there's something wonderful to be said about someone who can play an instrument and create textures and atmospheres and make you feel something. I think it's like with certain prog rock bands that some are so good that they forget that there's a song behind it. This is the flip side. It's always trying to evoke something, and it always sounds like the soundtrack of a movie. And it's beautiful. It's melancholy, but it's soothing, and it's good music to relax to, by the way. I do recommend it for introspective writing sessions if you need to get in this somber mood. And it's not just like this. The first song that we were listening to was called Darkness Is Not the Opposite of Light, which is the album from him that I've heard the most. It's called Now. This one's My Misty Mornings from Winter Stories. He also has a recent one called Autumn Stories. But see, there's staccatos and then he does chords. But it's always music that you can put in the background and it's not going to interfere with your writing, which I think is why I'm recommending this. My first exposure to him was in 2013 with the album Now. But there's always something fun and interesting and lovely to find in his music. I don't know, maybe fun is not the right word, but interesting definitely. Like the other instrumental artists that I mentioned, his music evokes scenes in my mind. I can see scenes playing out, where Zoe Keating has some intense cello pieces that evoke even battles in the forest. I can easily lose myself in space, in a quiet lake where something tragic happened. Maybe a winding stair that opens to a vast ocean. Maybe someone can see a fairy dancing in a graveyard. I don't know, whatever. Let your imagination go. And I think that's the good thing about this music and this type of music. It invites your imagination to just let go. Like many other artists, I discovered him on Bandcamp. And I can't recommend that site enough. I find a lot of good music, good indie music, and apparently it's a good website in terms of compensation, and that's always a good thing for us indie artists. So by all means, check him out in the link that I'll put here and that will be down in the description below. And if you also wonder if he has something a bit more futuristic, this track is Spacewalk from the album Secret Book. It starts off and you're like, oh, piano, normal. And then little textures start to pop up pretty soon. In the background you hear a droning sound. Keeps rising, keeps rising. And then you have those little glimmers of electronica, some cellos, some violins. It's a very interesting album and a very interesting artist, so by all means, check him out. Until next time, always remember, go indie now.
today's indie film that we're doing is an international one, and it touches on a very sensitive topic. And the reason why I say this is because we live in a bubble, you know, we do. Everyone in first world countries tends to live in their own first world country bubble, and everyone in third world countries and second world countries, they tend to live in their own bubble, where we see the world through different lenses. And that's what this film's about. When anyone who knows me knows my stance on feminism. I'm for equal rights for everybody. I'm for following the rule of law. I'm for evidence before hearsay. That being said, there are countries in the world where people don't get such benefits. There are countries in the world where certain people are treated as second-class citizens, literally treated as second-class citizens. And that's where this film touches base. And it's a Chinese film, and I want to just say that it's a very, very unique one that deals with a lot of touching subjects, but it actually shows us as first world country people what women in third world countries tend to go through. And there are some people that will say, well, China's a first world country, and it tends to be in certain parts, but it's not. Specifically in the way it treats women and the way women are viewed. Today's film is called Angels Wear White, and it is a film dealing with the oppression of two little girls who were abused by a middle-aged man. It's caught on video with the staff of a hotel that she tends to just catch it on their closed caption TV. She records it and it goes through the whole thing of it being processed, and the way these girls are treated by their parents as being the guilty party. And you can see this in just the way that women are placed in such a position of culpability for their actions when they're not the ones at fault. And I'm not saying that I'm not shifting the blame here at all, and where all men are guilty. I'm saying find the evidence. The issue here is that in China, this film shows us that they can't even come up to show the evidence because they're so oppressed. They can't bring up their story because they're so oppressed, even from their own family. You know, the shame of what that's brought into their family, and this is by societal standards, and that's what goes through here. It's a very touching film. It's a very unique film, and I think it shows us all that we need to listen and we need to follow the evidence, and we need to provide a way for the evidence to be brought forward without it being tainted. And that's what this film is, what we're going for. Again, the actresses that you've been seeing here is Mei Jun Zhou. She's one of the actresses. She plays one of the little girls. Yu Xing Wang, and he plays one of the cast there as well. And then Vicky Chen as well is in this as well. I couldn't find a good picture of Vicky Chen. Sorry about that. And again, the film is called Angels Wear White, and please check it out. The trailer's at the end of this.
28路坐到底，再转。
19路，
放了学直接回来啊！
知道了。
小姑娘，让一下。我们继续拍。姑娘小抬高，来，进来一下。
主要是肩膀低点。OK， 回头看镜头了。OK， 1、2、3，走。OK， 好，看到对方，慢一点，慢一点。OK， 来，1、2、3，走嘞。
Hi, I'm Teresa Greenwood. I'm the author of What You Take With You, Wildfire, Family, and the Road Home. It's my eyewitness account of the Fort McMurray, Alberta wildfire, which saw the evacuation of 80,000 people from my hometown and eventually the loss of 2,500 homes. The following passage that I'm about to read for you is about a section where I'm waiting in traffic after leaving my home, which is in the path of the blaze. And I'm waiting in traffic as I try to reach my husband, Steve, who's working at City Hall. I have a strict no-phone policy when driving, but I was parked, so I took out my cell. Based on my emergency training, I knew social media would be confusing and misinformation flowing freely. I would get my information from Steve, who should be getting it directly from the Emergency Ops Center, so he could post it on the city website. I texted him about the need for the Royal Canadian Mounted Police to get the traffic moving. "Don't panic," Steve texted back. What the hell, I thought. In the 30 years I've known Steve, he has not once, ever, told me not to panic. "Why should I panic?" I texted. "No reason," he replied. "Are you panicking?" I texted. "Forget I said that," he said. "I can see the intersection. The RCMP are there. It shouldn't be long." I should have realized something was horribly wrong, but panicking never occurred to me. Even though I had barely moved 50 meters in 30 minutes, even though each time the line moved, it was by a single car length, even though the car's air conditioning abruptly quit. Surprising because we had the car in for a tune-up 2 weeks before and everything was fine. It was nearly 34 degrees Celsius now, and turning on the car fan meant blowing even hotter air over myself. So it was easier to leave everything turned off as I conserved gas. I kept the windows rolled up against the smoke. I wondered if changing into my jeans had been such a good idea. With the windows rolled up, there was little communication along the line of vehicles, especially with everyone staying in our cars to be ready when the line moved. Ash drifted down like dandelion fluff on a summer day. I flipped the dial to the local radio stations, but heard only pre-recorded music. It can't be that bad, I thought, or they would be broadcasting live. Everyone on Athabasca Drive sat patiently in the long, snaking row and left the incoming lane clear for emergency vehicles. An ambulance raced into the neighborhood, lights flashing and siren blaring. It cut through the middle of the line, a few cars in front of me, and waiting vehicles inched over to make room as it pulled down a cul-de-sac. Paramedics pushing a stretcher raced into a home, running up the steps of the veranda, and almost immediately racing back out, holding up an oxygen tank and a patient strapped under a long white sheet. They folded the stretcher flat like an ironing board and slid it into the back of the ambulance, the rear doors slamming shut. Family members jumped into a car parked out front, and the two vehicles sped through the space left in the line for their exit. They headed out down the incoming lane, lights and sirens blaring to warn oncoming traffic. For a brief moment, I thought about pulling out of traffic and following them, jumping the queue. But I was alone. No one was depending on me to get them to safety, so I decided to wait my turn. Only one vehicle, a large pickup, pulled out from our line to follow as the ambulance cleared a path. Sitting between two bends in the road, I had no idea what was happening ahead. Our long line of cars sat patiently, some with engines running and some not. Some gas tanks were close to empty. I saw people in driveways and garages draining gasoline from ATVs and lawnmowers and snowmobiles. People parked in front and behind me siphoned gas from recreational vehicles they towed on trailers. From where I sat, I could, for the most part, see the office building where Steve worked. From the web browser on my phone, I could tell he was on the job, sending out emergency messages for the municipality. I knew if word went out for people in that long line of cars along Athabasca Drive to abandon their vehicles, Steve would be one of the first people to get that word. If he didn't hear from me, he would come get me. It sounds melodramatic, movie of the week, but I knew it. I looked for a clear path down to Abasand Hill across Highway 63 to the Clearwater River on the east side of the downtown core. I watched several people on foot head down the hill carrying large, overstuffed backpacks. They were not running and did not seem panicked. I assumed that they didn't have cars, and with no buses operating, were walking to the evacuation shelter at the north end of town. The packs looked heavy. If I had to run for it, I decided, I would carry nothing but my purse with my identification and my phone. I had been treadmill running every day for the past 6 months, training for a 5-kilometer run I hope to do that summer with my sister. I was pretty sure I could make it to the river if I had to, even in the smoke. I would have to be very careful crossing the highway. I would look both ways and listen hard for traffic so I didn't get run over by a fire truck. I made sure my car doors were unlocked. I double-checked my purse with my identification and put it on the seat beside me. I took a deep breath of the smoky air inside the car. I watched ash drift down from the sky to land on the windshield, and I turned on the windshield wipers to brush it aside. I know how it sounds. I thought Steve would give me advance warning. I thought I would outrun a raging forest fire. I thought Steve would find me in the smoke and the chaos. But if the flames appeared around the bend in the road, I was going to give it a hell of a good try.
Tucson Salvage Project is, and it's an ongoing project. So Brian goes every other week all around our city. He usually walks or drives and looks for people who most others would pass by or cross the street away from or roll up the window by, people that are living without homes, or people that have snakes around their necks, or people that just seem odd, you know, but Brian is attracted to them and is really, really non-judgmental and open-hearted when he approaches them, and he spends a good amount of time with them and wins their trust. And once he does that, they often find themselves opening up and telling their story in ways they've never done before. And he uses his talents as a writer to really showcase their life story and some of the wisdom that they've gotten from the suffering that they've done, and often the amazing ways that they have transcended and are perhaps not traditionally successful, but are certainly somehow spiritually intact, considering all that they've been through. And he brings these stories to the Tucson Weekly, our alt-weekly paper, which has a huge fan base in our town, and again, helps get the stories back out to the people themselves because it's free. So it allows for people to somewhat feel worthwhile that their stories have been shared, and it's a really amazing documentary and project he's been working on for 3.5 years, and he still does. Before I was ever with Brian, I read this, and I loved the project, and I love the heart of this project, and the way that there was nothing polluted about it. It's very pure, you know, it's just people it's just trying to be in service of people who are underrepresented and telling their story. This book was put out by a UK publisher, the first of this year and the end of last year in the UK, and it compiles a lot of the columns. But I'd love to start off the program with hearing it from the man himself, Brian.
We go around the country. I've been on a book tour promoting this thing, and a lot of times I find that the most fun stuff to read out loud is the stuff that is a little, sometimes on the more uncomfortable side. And I will say, before I read this a little bit, I never had a good relationship with police officers in my entire life. I played in rock and roll bands, and I was always often hassled by cops on the street. I had been handcuffed, been called a junkie, been called a drug addict, I had my head slammed on the back of cop cars, been taken down to jail for doing nothing. So I never liked cops. So in one of my columns, I decided one night I'm going to ride around with a cop to see what happens. And I found this police officer who let me ride around with him in Tucson, in the ghettos of Tucson, all night. And I wound up falling in love with this guy in many ways. And I learned that we can't not learn about ourselves even at an advancing age. I mean, I started feeling these bouts of compassion and empathy that were completely unexpected with this guy. He nearly died on the job once too, and that turned out to be. Anyway, I'll just read a piece of this and shut the hell up. He once watched a guy blow his face and the top of his head off with a large caliber gun. The gory suicide isn't necessarily what shocked him. It was how the guy survived for a short time afterwards, all mangled up like that. Necessary pieces of him gone forever. So tonight is nothing new to Tucson cop David Lewis, this father and husband, college grad, and ex-skateboarder. Hell, he nearly died once on the job more than a decade ago. Dragged 150 feet beneath a car, the left side of his face shredded off, eye out of its socket. He's had to fight for normalcy after that. Still does. And he nearly lost it all. It's around midnight when we arrive on a usually dark stretch of Campbell Avenue near Fort Lowell Road, lit up by pulsing yellows, oranges, and reds. A guy attempted suicide by car. He's pinned beneath a Honda, pants bloody. His legs and boots protrude slightly from underneath, his shirt snarled around a rear tire. It takes a minute for this particular brutality to come into focus because this could be death, and that kind of shock is always delayed by a few seconds or minutes or longer. The Honda's driver stands on the side of the road, shattered and trembling because she ran over this guy, and Jesus, how will she get to sleep tonight? I squat closer and see behind the car's front tire a distended belly and hairy chest and shredded skin crushed by an engine block. There's not much blood, but an awful secretion foams from his mouth, and a pool of vomit has foamed under his head and beard. His right arm is stretched out in the form of somebody who's desperately reaching out for something like a cigarette or a god. The smell of booze mixes with exhaust from idling fire trucks and ambulances and cop cars, and I'm probably 10 feet away from him. I wonder, in that moment, as he groans and slightly squirms in agony, if it's possible that he could only be dreaming, or if he's aware that this world around him has suddenly stopped and all its eyes are on him. I wonder if he is a mother or a daughter, a brother or a wife, and if they have ever consoled him. Maybe he thinks the paramedics saying calming things to him are angels. These fluorescent-vested paramedics and cops were quickly employing the kind of orderly precision that would take any of them far in any career of their choosing. This guy could be dying, but that just ain't gonna happen on their damn watch. Cops find it hard to believe the guy is still breathing and say he probably wouldn't be if not for the Hispanic kid who quickly procured a carjack and raised the Honda enough so that this guy might actually survive. As he's placed carefully on a stretcher and lifted into the ambulance, Lewis agrees that if the man were sober, he'd likely be dead. One good thing about getting run over by a car when you're drunk is you bend like a rag doll. At first I think Lewis is mocking the guy's horrific circumstance, but soon I understand that he's making light of something bigger. He's making light of the absurdity, of the insanity of having to work every day with so much torment and sadness. The very kind that finds a woman driving innocently down Campbell Avenue suddenly part of another's insane suicide plot. The tone helps Lewis stay detached, saves him and other cops from becoming crippled by the misery of others. It's how he can still be a dad and a husband and a guy who can relax, eat enough in his spare time to train dogs and play guitar. Still, even that, he says, is difficult. Even that, he says, wreaks havoc on your family. Even that wreaks havoc on your family. We climb into Lewis's tricked out 2016 Chevrolet Tahoe Patrol SUV and follow the ambulance to the University Medical Center. Lights a flash and Disturbed's Down with the Sickness play softly in the cab. And it's so strange to think that cops listen to music when they work. And I'll stop there. But that's an excerpt from one of the pieces in the book.
I am Marnie Kate, author of the Protectors of the Elemental Magic series and the A Broken Girl collection. Today, I'm here to talk about my second book in the A Broken Girl collection called Forgiving Ginger. The first book, Chasing Caitlin, started with the antagonist, Caitlin Chase, who it shows her life and how some trauma and life choices sent her down a different path, and how people's perceptions of you can sometimes change you, and how there is sometimes a way out of it, even though you may have to try over and over and over. So my second book, Forgiving Ginger, was not planned, but one of my readers, who happens to be my sister, said, "I'm mad at you. You didn't tell me what happened to Ginger." And my first thought was, why would I care about the mistress? I told her story. I didn't have bad feelings about her. I just she had her story. And I went to bed that night and I woke up with a very strong image of Ginger's story was told to me. I know that sounds weird for people that don't have crazy voices in their head writing books for them, but so Forgiving Ginger was born. And now I'm going to read you a small bit of it, and I hope you enjoy. I jumped in surprise at the loud knock on the door. I checked the time on my phone. Jeremy was way too early. Frustration filled me. I had wanted to look perfect. Everything had to be just right. I didn't know how he'd take the news. Jeremy pounded harder on the door. Sighing, I threw my hair in a messy bun and threw on my robe. He's going to be pissed before you even open the door, I thought bitterly. Suddenly, an idea came to mind, and I untied the string on my wrap, exposing the black lacy underwear and push-up bra I wore. With a deep breath, I put on a brilliant smile and flung open the door. "Sorry, babe, Instead of my blonde-haired, blue-eyed boyfriend, I found a middle-aged Korean man. He beamed at me. "Eek!" I squealed, and I slammed the door. "Miss, you need to sign." The man frantically knocked as he called through the door. "Please, miss." Covering myself, I cracked the door open. "I'm not interested in buying anything." "Delivery, sign here." The persistent man shoved a clipboard through the crack, waving a thick envelope in his other hand. Relenting, I signed the paper and handed it back. Then he slipped the document through the opening. When I took it, he scurried off. "Thank you," I called. "Hello, Ginger. We've not been formally introduced. You may know me as the crazy bitch you've heard so many wonderful things about. And when you realize I've been your friend and confidant for the last few months, I know you won't believe me when I tell you I am, in fact, quite sane. I promise you I have no violent episodes or rages. I have just been in a loveless marriage with a cheater for a very long time. Do you know what Jeremy does if you confront him about cheating? He throws you away. He cuts off all your money. He does this to control you. He set the stage for this punishment by insisting early in the relationship, you don't need to have a job. He needs you to be there for him anytime he wants you. Do you know, even as a married woman with no prenuptial agreement, I had to live with my mother for 2 months until I was willing to apologize to him for his indiscretions? I never planned on being your friend when I dressed up as Justice. I just wanted to know the truth about my husband and the girl in the picture. I met a sweet woman who will be a mom soon. You and your child deserve better than Jeremy Whitaker. I know what I'm giving you is not enough to set you up for the rest of your life, but I want you to take it. I can't force you to stay away from Jeremy and start again. However, I encourage you to have a life with someone who loves you and makes you feel proud of yourself. Not a life of Jeremy's domination and second thoughts. The pictures I sent you were just a taste of my dear husband's flings. You received 3 months' worth. Imagine the album I could put together of all of his affairs. While you were wearing my dress, I was hosting a women's luncheon on domestic violence. How ironic is that? But those are memories that should be buried and forgotten. Looking back when I'm old and gray, I don't want to think I stayed around to be treated like I was nothing. From your pregnancy, it is apparent Jeremy has become a little sloppy about practicing safe sex. As of today, I confirm he has not passed on any STDs to me. Today. Let's hope that stays true. This letter has become a little bit more preachy than I hoped. I just wanted to send you a friendly warning. No, not a threat. Not a leave my husband alone. Because if you want him still, he's yours. But I would say that no amount of money is worth what Jeremy will put you through. Find someone who will share a dessert with you and not make you wish you'd ordered one yourself. I wish you the best, Ginger. Really, Caitlin Chase. I hope you enjoy chapter 1 of Forgiving Ginger and take the time to hear the rest of the story as Ginger's journey continues. If you have any questions or encouragement or dislikes, or you're mad at me too for something, please reach out to me at facebook.com/author Marnie Kate, and I look forward to hearing from you.
I fall down, scrape a knee, let out tears, not because I'm weak. Hold deep the pain so I can breathe. Get back up and be a girl like me. I keep close every little scar. Tuck away those deadly dangers to my heart. I get to know them all intimately. That's the fate of the world for girls like me. I'm a warrior, I'm a champion. Even if you break me down, you can size me up, but there's so much more to me. I'm fearless and valiant, a soldier of the here and now. And there's one of me as far as the eye can see. No, I won't back down. No, there's no surrender. I left home, stood on my own, found my courage, it became my throne. I broke the rules when I would not retreat. I lit a fire that burns inside of me. I'm a warrior, I'm a champion. Even if you break me down, you can size me up, but there's so much more to me. I'm fearless and valiant, a soldier of the here and now. And there's one of me as far as the eye can see. Yes, we are warriors and champions. You won't tear us down. We found our heart, it's all we need. Fearless and valiant, soldiers of the here and now. And there's one of us as far as the eye can see. We all know her, honestly. Broke the rules, we would not retreat. Held deep the pain so we could breathe. We lit a fire for girls like me. There's no surrender for girls like me. We lit a fire for girls like me. I lit a fire that burns inside of me. I'm a warrior, I'm a champion. Even if you
Hi everybody, how you doing? My name is Todd Braley. I am a director and producer, writer, And we did this movie last year called Silence, and you're going to be watching that video here, video clip shortly. So thanks everybody for watching. And as a indie filmmaker, I would just like to advise everybody out there that when you're shooting, to make sure that you make sure that you let people know that if you're using firearms, even if they're fake, that you call 911 dispatch and let them know what you're doing, because otherwise you could wind up in a world of shit. I did when I was younger, back in the mid 80s. I shot a film that involved firearms and wound up with and didn't tell anybody, and wound up with half of the police force and the SWAT team from the Pomona Police Department when I lived in California. So there you go. There's a little thing for you to consider, and actually it's not even a consideration. You should do it, period. It's not even it's not even something that you should think about. It's something that you need to do. Otherwise, you could get yourself or somebody else hurt. So enjoy the clip.
That's the story of how I got a knife from Arkansas.
Okay. Oh my God. Okay, guys, we need to go. Not quite yet. Caitlin has been avoiding questions about her date with Tony. Now, no more bullshit.
Really, Jenna?
Yo, Katie, are you gonna lock us out? What's up?
Oh, come on, you guys. Okay, fine. Caitlin, talk, but make it quick.
Oh my God, you three are worse than the Golden Girls. And Jenna, I already told you everything that happened.
I know more than that happened.
Oh yeah? How do you know more than that happened?
Because you're wearing more makeup today than usual. Girl, that's highlight.
Ooh, Katie, tell us about it. Well, we kissed before we left the office.
What? Yo, girl, you made the first move.
I knew you had
some slut in you.
I don't believe this. Well, it happened. I really like him, guys. But I told him I wanted to take it slow, and he understood, so give me a break.
Okay, girls, we need to make sure that everyone's aware of Caitlin's virginity.
That's my personal business.
Yo, girl, it don't sound like you're doing any business. You need to get your freak on.
Come on, you guys.
Caitlin, we're just screwing with you.
Yeah. Just because you're fucking half the town doesn't mean the rest of us have to follow suit, Jenna. I mean, what's it like to have sex without love? What's it like to know that in the end no one likes you for you, they like you for what's between your legs?
Well, the rest of us do know, Miss Prissy. What's it like to be dumped by 3 guys because of your convictions? What's it gonna be like when Tony dumps you because you won't put out?
Jenna, stop it!
That was harsh, yo. And what she said wasn't.
Yeah, but she's not us, Jenna, and she never will be, so why do you feel the need to rag her for it?
For shizzle, man. She don't judge us, so why you feel the need to judge her?
I wasn't judging her. I just wanted to know how her date went. You need to apologize to her.
Word.
So Todd presented me with the script, and then I said I was on board, even with only reading, I want to say, half the script, because it was such a powerful message that I was honored with the opportunity to convey. And then Todd was like, slow down, talk to your mom. And so I talked to my mom about it, and at first she sat there and she was like, you understand what this is about, right? Because she read the whole thing, and I was like, yes. And she was like, are you sure you're going to be able to handle this subject matter? And I was like, yes. And she was like, okay, go for it.
Part of the magic of Todd is he has the most diverse group of people I've ever met in my life. You'll be working with people that you would never have met on any given day. And to watch the relationships evolve in this film, you took 4 girls, you put them together. Yes, they're acting together, they're acting like friends, but then you start seeing that they're hanging out at each other's houses, they're going out to dinner. They became friends through this process. And everybody in the film sort of identified with each other. We became a really close-knit group. We were kind of our own support knit group because there was so much intensity to this film.
I was very happy that we were sharing the message that we were sharing, because it's an important topic to me, especially as a woman, but in general, it's something that doesn't get talked about enough. And when it does get talked about, it gets talked about in such a fashion that it's not about what happened, it's about who did it. And that's kind of demeaning, I think, in a lot of ways. The way that we portrayed the situation really spoke to how it makes the victim feel and what happens to them and what happens to the people around them, which was really, really important to me. So I'm really glad that we got to talk about such an important topic in such a fashion that hopefully people see our message the way it's meant to be seen.
It made some of my older relatives step back and really think about the subject matter. I mean, we get in political debates all the time, right? That's just family, that's what happens. But whenever this topic would come up, I would always stand my ground, and I would come across as a little defensive, especially after working on the project. And then after they saw it, they were like, I understand where you're coming from a bit more, because I think when people say rape or sexual assault, they don't really understand what that actually entails, or the physical abuse, the mental trauma, and the hardship that victims have to overcome. And so I think that put it in a new light and perspective, and I think it was a breakthrough for a lot of them, where it's separating word versus reality and the actual severity of the situations.
Against all odds, this film got made with lots of different trials and tribulations, and I think the film stands on its own as a testament to everybody sticking with it and pushing through and getting it done.
There's so many sides to every story thrown into that movie that it's really hard to relate to just one person. There's a little bit of everyday life in every character there. You can pick a character in that movie and relate to one aspect of it. It's not just, you don't watch that movie going, I only relate to this person. You watch it going, wow, I can relate to that happening. Another character, I can relate to that happening. And even the Scuzz Bucket, you're like, I can relate to that. He's shit on through the whole thing by everybody. He didn't lash out right, but there's an understanding with everybody in there and every character.
Sometimes I'd get a question like, how did you as a woman feel about the film? And I just answer, I mean, it's acting. It is a very real subject and it's serious, but I'm here to act and portray that, not get overly emotional or political about anything revolving around that.
It is a very real subject, and it's something that happens more than it should. And I think it'll bring an awareness to people of how it affects everybody. And granted, not every outcome is going to end the same way the movie did, but it's going to give people perspective on, once it gets brought up and they know somebody that trauma's happened to, they can't just say, oh, well, you'll get over it. It's going to open an eye and be like, oh, wow, I'm so sorry.
It's a beautiful independent film that explores a situation that could happen to any of us. And it's so interesting to see how they dealt with the situation, and the outcome was way different than I thought it would be. Actually, the whole film was different than I thought it would be. I was anticipating a lot more sex and violence, and I was really happy that it wasn't there. Just because I think everything is, all the movies today are so overloaded. So I'd tell anybody to watch it, that it's refreshing, an interesting point of view, and you wouldn't be disappointed.
Day by day, I'll be back someday to find the strength in my soul to be not alone. Since I've lost, cause of the problems I've gone through. Day by day, I'll be back someday to be with you. Yeah.
So you may have seen earlier in the month that we debuted a brand new live show called Joe's Bar, which is, an extension of something that I did at the Brains to Book Cyber Convention for the last couple years. And so I had a free slot, and I thought, well, we haven't been in the live arena for a while, so why don't we get back to it? Joe's Bar right there. And so we are going to be doing that show every month now, live once a month. So I hope you guys come and take a look at it. Along those lines, as we have, as every good bar does, a wall to share photos and whatnot. And here we're sharing actually a bunch of great indie artists and their art. So if you have a postcard, you want to send it to me, by all means, get in touch with us. Email me at info@GoIndieNow.com, and I'll just tell you where you can send your postcard if you want to get on the wall here. If I'm at a festival or an event, I will gather as many as I can, so make sure if you see me to make sure if you have one to get it in my hands, and I'll make sure it goes up on the wall. We've got a bunch of great movies here. We even have Con Lavery's novels up here. Our badges from our time at CineQuest and Slamdance this year. So definitely there's all kinds of different movies. There's actually episodic television, there's feature film, documentaries, so comedies, dramas. So whatever indie is up here, we're going to put up there. I'd love to get some musicians up there. I'd love to get some of your books up there. So if you have bookmarks and things like that, please get in touch with me. Again, info@GoIndieNow.com, and send them to me. I'll tell you where you can send them to me, and we'll put you up on the wall. Go check us out on our social media as well. GoIndieNow.com, Facebook /GoIndieNow, Twitter @JoeDream73, and Twitch TV, which we're going to be doing some stuff over there later in the year. We're excited about doing that, so go follow us, and if you feel free, subscribe. I know we're not doing much right now, so I hate to have you waste your free subscribe on us right now, but do keep us in mind for the future. But do follow us, because we'll be putting some stuff up there in the interim before we start programming over there. But we will be programming over there very soon. We're in the talks of doing some things that we're real excited about over at Twitch. So Twitch TV /GoIndieNow, go follow us if you haven't already. And follow us on Instagram, because we're really rocking it over there on Instagram @GoIndieNow. It's a great platform. We're real excited to have it. We wished that we could have gotten the coffee break thing together. We didn't do a very good job of formatting there. That's all on me. And so hopefully season 5 I'll figure it out and get it up there, and we'll get some things going up on Instagram as well. We have our weekly shows on Facebook, This Week in Indies, and then this month in International Indies, each and every month, each and every week. So go check that out over there on Facebook as well. And you're here on YouTube, so you know where to find us here. So if you haven't already, subscribe to us. We'd really appreciate that. And with that being said, I just wanted to thank you all so much for the great reception you gave Joe's Bar and all the shows that we do. We've got a great origins. We've got great fandom forum for you. We've got another great Joe's Bar episode. I've got some VIPs lined up already for the April show, and I'm real excited about talking to them and sitting down with them. It's going to be a lot of fun. And along those lines, we'll have a lot of things going on. We've got some more programming coming up in the summertime that we're real excited about. Once a few of our shows end their seasons, we'll have some things that will follow up right behind them. So we're not going to miss a beat here at GoIndieNow. And of course, we'll be out on the road doing some stuff. Hopefully very soon you'll see a lot more of us covering some events and things that we're doing out there, and we'll be out there. So if you see us, come say hi. Definitely if you got a postcard, make sure you get it in my hands. And with that, it's always time to go indie now, and we'll see you again soon. All right, everybody.